I think it was important to, excuse me, go over, have three different segments here. I'm going to make one video for the severe weather threat for today so I can focus on it, one video on the tropics, and another video just on the rest of the weather for the nation. Um, I feel like that it gives me the opportunity to spend more time on one specific thing and gives people an opportunity to look at what they want, not have to figure out where they want to go in my videos to listen to what they need. So let's get started here. So for today, you can see the where the severe risk is. And we have a categorical moderate risk centered in North Dakota, just barely into Minnesota with a surrounded by a slight risk, 15% chance into South Dakota, Minnesota, North Dakota, Montana, and a large marginal risk surrounding it. This is driven mostly by severe wind and hail threat. You can see where the hatched area is surrounding a smaller moderate risk, which is 30% hail risk, 10% significant hail risk in the hatched area. So I know it's kind of confusing, but that's the way they do it. Wind risk a little further east, but you see where the hatched area is. Again, 30% wind risk, which is winds exceeding 50 knots within 20 miles, wind gusts exceeding 50 knots within 25 miles of a point. 10% significant wind risk means there's a 10% chance in the hatched area of winds exceeding 60 knots or greater within 25 miles of a point. And the tornado risk they have here right now at 5%, surrounded by 2% marginal risk. I wanted to show you this other graphic that kind of shows the upper level pattern that's supporting this. Let's go back in time a little bit. This is the high resolution rapid refresh model. See the high pressure system down here in the desert southwest is pretty much all the hot weather. With a mid-level low moving through the flow here. This is initialized today. Let's go. I don't have anything more from the most recent run. Sorry. Initialized today at 6Z, which is let's see, not too long ago, about an hour, almost 2 hours ago. Anyway, and this runs every hour. It's usually like an hour and a half behind. And every so often it runs. I think it's every 6 or 12 hours. It runs a 48-hour run. The rest are like 24 hours. Anyway, you move through time here. You can see the mid-level feature and the enhanced flow and little ripples moving through the flow here. And you can see North Dakota, South Dakota in those areas, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, all those states, and Minnesota over here. Of course, a high pressure system up to the south here. This feature is forecast to move east, and this is 15 hours out, so this is 21Z. Let me see if I can zoom in to this area here. That's too much of a zoom, isn't it? Sorry, guys. Regional. I want to show local time, but 21Z is roughly 5 hours earlier, so that's 1600. No, 16. Anyway, I think it's 4 or 5 p.m. So anyway, we'll go through the flow here. See the enhancement of the flow increasing as we get towards 00Z. If we zoom out a little bit, get the broader view. Where the enhanced flow is 500 millibars. There's also a surface flow that develops here. Go back in time here a little bit. See the surface flow moving to the east. That will help enhance the low level flow in the level jet, which will enhance the low level shear, which brings the potential for tornadoes. And with the steep mid-level lapse rates and the convective available potential energy being so high, could lead to really strong damaging winds, hail greater than 2 inches in diameter. And I want to rule out some strong tornadoes today. I want to show you this graphic on the SPC. So what this is a 24-hour neighborhood probability of wind. Radius equals 40 kilometers, which is about 25 miles. You see this bullseye right in that orange area for today, enhanced 30%, right? So that makes sense given what the SPC is saying. And if you overlay this with the 24 max updraft helicity greater than 75 meters square per second square, which is probably it's a threshold for severe weather like they use here. So this gives you a good idea why they have the threat the way they have it. And if you look at the guidance for hail, as of right now, the hail guidance isn't quite as bullish as the um, there's a categorical circled here, isn't as bullish as the wind risk. I think probably the wind risk, the straight line wind risk, is the most the biggest threat today. And if you look at tornado calibration, you see a bullseye here of it looks like roughly 1, 2%, 5%, 10%. I'm kind of wondering if what that is. Is that's probably 20%. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they bring maybe it's 30%. Anyway, I wouldn't be surprised if they bring the tornado threat up a little bit, given what we're seeing here. This gives a good idea of what the SPC's thinking is about severe weather. And if you go back to the hail risk, you can see where the biggest risks are. And there's this is the 4 hours. So it just moves with time more than the 24-hour. So you see what happens here. You have you see why they have this enhanced, like this weird looking area over here because of the hail threat and wind threat. A little bit more of a wind threat in that area. What's driving this? Well, if you look at the supercell composite, which gives a good idea of where the models think supercell development is going to be most focused. You can see the northerly extent and southerly extent of the supercell composite is centered, northern extent is centered right along where the biggest risk is. And of course, as you go through time, overnight it kind of wanes. And if you look at significant tornado parameter values, they're maximized around that same time period, but not, you get down to 24 hours out, that's when they really ramp up. So this is likely to be more, this is 10 p.m. today. So that's why I think maybe there's a potential for significant tornadoes today. If you look at reflectivity through this time, initially starts out as maybe some supercells that are um, isolated from each other, congealing into a line that moves through the area. You can see what we're seeing here. And if you zoom in, and you see up into Montana and Wyoming, they have storms ongoing there, likely as part of the upper level feature that's moving through the flow there, or mid level feature. You see what it shows happening here in North Dakota, a line moving through. And if we zoom in to this a little bit, you see what I'm talking about here. Highest wind threat looks to be, as its model run, this is 1 a.m. tomorrow morning. This is the prime time for MCS type activity. And you see two different, maybe three different lines moving through here. And if we look at the wind gusts that are predicted here, we could have potentially almost 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts today or tonight. This line is moving pretty quickly east and clears the area by morning. So if you zoom out, line weakens with time. See what happens here. So I think the SBC is right on. The zone position is right on with the what they're talking about here. So as far as tomorrow goes, let's see where the biggest risk is. So you have a tomorrow night ish, like tomorrow afternoon, evening. Moderate risk moves further east between Minnesota and North Dakota as that mid-level feature moves to the east, as well as the surface flow into parts of South Dakota. Marginal risk. Um, this is surrounded by a slight risk, and the large marginal risk around it, mostly driven by wind. They don't have a hash area for wind right now. 50% chance wind risk, 5%. The hail threat appears to be the biggest threat tomorrow afternoon and evening, as we see the 30% hail risk surrounded by a larger 10% significant hail and 15% hail risk surrounding it, and 5% around there. Tornado, as of right now, 2% tornado risk. That's as far out I'm going to go with the severe outlook. What I did want to show is what the models show tomorrow, if it'll get that far. Really not. This is in the evening tomorrow. If we go back and look at the outlook between North Dakota, Minnesota, and South Dakota, hail, wind. If we look at excuse me, this area here, this model run doesn't go far enough out. I have to go to the NAM, North American model. Not the most recent run, but tomorrow at 8Z. See what it depicts here. A lot of storms moving through late tomorrow night. Potentially winds 50, 60 miles an hour. And the hail risk is likely driven by some pretty steep lapse rates, which is at the mid levels. You can see where they're maximized just south of halfway south, between Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota. And that's pretty extreme. If you take a sounding, which is just a slice of the atmosphere, what it thinks. Potential for tornadoes, and you can see go back a couple frames here. The photographs aren't particularly, you have a cap in place here, but the cap looks to erode. The photographs aren't particularly long and elongated and curved like excessively where you would expect really impressive tornadoes. But if you go back before, let me go back here. The surface lapse rates are pretty peaky there. But if the cap can be overcome, you can see the lapse rates at the mid levels. When you have that kind of lapse rates in the D cape, downdraft cape, the potential for high winds and severe hail is a lot greater. You see how dry the air is in the mid levels here. And that's likely what's driving the as far as we can go here. Let's see. And that's convective contamination right there. So that's when the convection is coming through. Anyway, if you go back, let's see if I can go far enough to calibrated wind threat. Yeah, according to this, I do have a moderate risk. I'm not really sure what's going on here, but and it's more centered. Interesting. In the afternoon, moves eastward. Interesting. I'm not. I'm gonna hold off on going through much more of this right now, but that in a general sense, and I'll probably talk about this tomorrow more. In a general sense, we know what's going to be happening there, and I think it's important to keep an eye on the current conditions and timing. Again, we go back to what the models are depicting for today. Let's go over this once again. I'm just gonna go to the local area for North Dakota here. Yeah, convection moving through in the morning, clearing out, likely leading to um, rejuvenation of the giving the atmosphere enough time to recover, and you see what happens here. So by, I don't know, 4 or 5 p.m., you see storm moving into the North Dakota, eventually congealing into a line. And what you see with these black areas is where the models are seeing updraft velocity over a certain value, greater than 75 meters square per second square. So by 11 p.m., it'll be moving through the middle of the state with potentially another line moving behind it by 1 and out of the state by 9. That's it for severe weather for today. In my next video, I'm going to talk about the tropics. And depending on how long it takes, I'll probably talk about the rest of the weather for the United States.